I don't know why this struck me, but it struck me when I was having conversations with people in Philly. I don't think I realized. So I think there's like this idea out there that they're just running it back in 2025. And after having the conversations I had there, I started to realize they aren't. And it's in particular on the defensive side of the ball. And the reason why I was like, I had that discussion with some people. Oh, yeah, year two of Vic Fangio's system, like you should be able to just kind of like build off the foundation that you already had. And like as people stop me, it's like, well, we really can't do that because we got so many new guys playing. And then you think about it, and it's like Josh Sweat's gone, Milton Williams is gone, Brandon Graham is gone, Darius Slay is gone, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is gone. I mean, even like at linebacker, you've got Nakobe Dean who's coming back from a really bad knee injury. Now, I think they think he's going to be back at some point. Maybe in the after a month into the regular season, maybe some point in October. But are you getting him back at full strength? You could wind up playing a rookie there in Jihad Campbell, who they think the world of, but that's still a new player there. So like that was kind of the one for me where I looked at it and I'm like, they're replacing a lot on defense, and they were really good defensively last year. Now, your hope, of course, is Nolan Smith takes another step up front. Jalix Hunt, that promise he showed at the end of last year, that really develops into something. Moro Ojomo is a defensive tackle that everybody should be paying attention to. He's kind of Milton Williams' replacement there. Campbell was somebody I mentioned. What do the young safeties, Sidney Brown and Andrew Makuba look like? What does the corner opposite Quinion Mitchell look like? But I think Mitchell and Gene could take another step, so there's a lot of potential there, but they are like to some degree resetting a little bit defensively.
I think too, it's so funny how every year the NFL just has this gift of at the end of the season, we have accumulated all this wisdom and then we just forget it over the course of 2 months. It's like being in high school again. Then you just show up a complete blank slate to be amazed again. Vic Fangio said it 100 times during Super Bowl week. I know, I follow the guy around because he's from Scranton. And every opportunity. Well, it took us 4, 5, 6 weeks. It took us 4, 5, 6 weeks. It took us 4, 5, 6 weeks to figure out how we wanted to play, where these guys belonged, where they should go, what their strengths are. And Vic will stand there and he'll sit there and he'll watch film and he'll do tendency breakers and he'll go through everything with a pen and a paper. But it takes time. But once it's good, it's freaking good. And so if you're an Eagles fan, and not to keep bringing it back to the all 272 list, but I had them going 10-7 this year. And everyone's like, you're high. There's something wrong with you. You're out of your mind. Not really, because this is a different group and it's going to take them time to figure out what makes this version of them a little bit better. I think they will because I have them winning 10 games. That's pretty good. But it's just one of those things that I feel like we're still not accustomed to the fact that there's going to be a struggle in every single season, right? There's going to be something that's difficult in every single year.
What would it take for what's it going to take for Hot Seat Talk to return?
For Nick Sirianni?
Yeah. Does he finally get a honeymoon here or no?
Well, I think the contract extension helps where I think the fans there are at least smart enough to know that nothing probably happens this year, right? I mean, that would be a historically ridiculous change of mind where they're just like, oh yeah, no. We're gonna actually move on and go hire Bill Belichick like we kind of faked like we were doing 2 years ago. I don't think that's gonna happen. But man, it's just we go into it always forgetting. Like Eagles fans remember when Nick Sirianni shaved his head?
Yeah.
And they played the Browns and he was fighting with the fans. And I loved it. Everybody else lost their minds. And they're like, this guy's out of control. This guy doesn't know what he's doing. And 3 months later, they win the goddamn Super Bowl. Just let it happen. Just let it happen. It's going to be fine. I don't know. But I do think it's interesting that I think winning the Super Bowl is obviously the best thing that can happen to someone, but I think it's the best thing that can happen to this collective group of coaches because it just buys you 5 or 6 weeks of quiet next year. Just enough time to get off the ground and to figure yourself out. Last year, I don't think we can overestimate how much heat was on Sirianni at that
They were
point in time.
2-2. Yeah,
They
when
were
they
two
were
and
2 and
two.
2. Yeah. Yeah.
2-2. It didn't look right. Didn't look great. And they were in the midst of a massive offensive transition, a massive defensive transition. And it's just, takes time. Takes time for this stuff to click, but we're not going to give it to them. So
yeah, I mean, Sirianni had a story for me. It was actually really interesting. Like, so I was with him last week, and he told me this story about, like, he took me through all the guys that he had talked to. I think I mentioned this to you, but like Gino Auriemma, Jay Wright, Jimmy Johnson, Peyton Manning. Like, he talked to all these guys about coming off of a championship, and his college coach actually brought up his college coach, and I'm like, oh crap, like he would have had more. He would have had more experience with this than anybody, at Mount Union, which they won a zillion national titles. And then I looked it up and I realized that Nick Sirianni's first loss as a college player was in his final college game. He was 55-0, and they lost in the national championship game his senior year after winning 3 straight national titles. So like, it kind of like, I think, so he told me, he said like, I one of the first call I made was to Larry Karras, his college coach, and to talk about coming off of a championship. And it was really interesting. The anecdote that Nick gave me was, like, Larry Karras brought up the 97-98 teams at Mount Union, and the 97 team set a national record for scoring. Right, both teams won the national title. The 97 team scored over 50 points a game, and basically graduated everybody. And then the 98 team, like, early in the year, had to win with defense. And like Nick said, it was like, really the lesson there was, you're going to have to win. Like, it's not the same team. You're going to have to win a different way. And I thought that was really interesting, because again, like, that I think Nick's telling that story for a reason, that early in the year, maybe it has to look a little bit different than it has. And maybe this year that means they have to outscore teams early on, right? Because they are breaking in so many new starters and so many new key contributors on defense. Whereas on offense, outside of Mekhi Becton, and we'll see Landon Dickerson's timeline, but like, they have to replace Mekhi Becton, but they have Tyler Steen, who's been in the system. Outside of that, like, they're sort of status quo coming back on offense.
Right. Here's the thing. I think that at the end of the day, Philly is the only sensible Super Bowl pick coming out of the NFC that doesn't cause my head to explode, and that doesn't cause me to come back with some sort of retort. I'm saying it's the only sensible one. I'm not. I did. Yes, I have a Bills-Eagles Super Bowl on the docket. But it just goes to show that even then, there is just this undercurrent of change and everything that needs to get mixed up. And Fangio's going to have to do it again. And Kevin Patullo is going to have to come in and do it. And Jalen Hurts, and you're going to need A.J. Brown to come back. And yes, you're going to have to outscore people, but you're going to have A.J. Brown who's hurt, and you're going to have to ask him to come back and say, hey, can you block like a champion again? Hey, Devonta Smith, can you run routes as a decoy, as a champion again, like you did last year? Can you all display your inner excellence? Right. That's the question.
I mean, without like delving too much into that and like turning into like a self-help podcast, I do think that there's that, like, I've always felt like that's the I think it was Pat Riley, the disease of me, right? Like, that was what it becomes, which is like the logic is like that there's this pie, and everybody had a certain piece of the pie that led to winning a championship. And now, because everybody felt like they were a big part of winning that championship, everybody wants a bigger piece of the pie.
Yep.
But there's not enough of that pie to go around. So how do you manage that? It's an interesting question.